The huge metal room was full of strange sounds and smells Ambassador Hyunwoo had never gotten used to. The Galactic Council building was made for many different kinds of alien beings, so the air tasted weird, and the lights were too bright for human eyes. He sat at the small table marked with Earth symbol and tried not to show how tired he was. 3 years of war had made everyone in this room angry. The Vortani Alliance ships had been attacking human colonies and trade routes for so long that people back on Earth were running out of food and fuel. The aliens said humans were spreading too fast through the galaxy and needed to be stopped before they became too powerful. Admiral Jimin sat next to Hyunwoo, and she looked calm, but he could see her hands were tight on her datapad. She had been fighting this war from the beginning and knew better than anyone how bad things really were. The human fleet was small compared to what the aliens could bring to fight them, but they had held on somehow. The lead Vortani speaker was a tall creature that looked like a giant lizard with smooth skin that changed colors when he felt different emotions. Right now his skin was dark red, which meant he was very angry. His long neck stretched up as he spoke in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "We have been very patient with your species," he said, and his skin got redder. "The human expansion must stop now. You have taken too many worlds and built too many ships. We will not allow you to threaten the peace of our galaxy any longer." Around the big room, other alien beings nodded their agreement. There were the Keth with their 4 arms and blue fur, the Noxian who looked like walking trees with too many eyes, the Grex whose bodies were like liquid metal that never stayed the same shape. All of them had joined together to fight against humanity. "Your people have 48 hours to accept our terms," the Vortani continued. "We are being generous by giving you this choice. You will leave all worlds outside your home system. You will destroy most of your ships. You will let us watch over your technology to make sure you never become a threat again." Admiral Jimin made a small sound like a laugh, but not a happy one. She had fought battles against ships from 6 different alien species and won most of them. The aliens were stronger in numbers, but humans were better at finding new ways to fight. They had learned to use the asteroids and gas clouds as weapons in ways the aliens never expected. Hyunwoo stood up slowly and the room became quiet. Every alien eye turned to look at him. Some of the creatures were twice as tall as humans, and some had claws or tentacles or other scary things. But he was not afraid. He had been a soldier before he became a diplomat and had seen worse things than angry aliens. "We came here because we wanted peace," he said in a clear voice that carried across the big room. "We offered to share our technology with you. We said we would trade fairly and help protect smaller worlds from pirates and raiders. We even offered to teach you about human art and music and stories." The Vortani leader's skin turned purple, which meant he was confused. "Why do you speak of these things, the EO? Time for such talk is over. You will accept our terms or face the full power of our combined fleets, but you never really wanted peace, did you?" Hyunwoo continued walking toward the center of the room. "You were afraid from the moment you met us. You saw that humans learn fast and adapt quickly, and you decided we were dangerous before you even tried to understand us." Admiral Jimin closed her datapad and stood up. Her uniform was perfect, even after the long hours of talking that had gone nowhere. She had been preparing for this moment since the talk started 3 days ago, and she was ready. "Tell me," she said, looking around at all the different alien species. "In all your long histories, has any of your people ever been truly desperate? Not just hungry or scared, but so desperate that you would do anything to survive?" The question seemed to confuse many of the aliens. The Keth whispered among themselves in their musical language. The Noxian rustled their branch-like arms in what might have been nervousness. Even the Grex stopped shifting and held still. "What does this matter to our discussion?" asked the Vortani leader, his skin now showing patches of different colors, because Hyunwoo said as he picked up his papers and started walking toward the door, "You're about to find out what happens when you corner a species that spent millions of years learning to survive. You think you know humans because you have fought our ships and invaded our colonies, but you have never seen what we really are." Admiral Jimin followed him toward the exit, but she moved slowly and carefully. As she passed her chair, she let something small fall from her hand. The tiny device landed under the table and immediately started blinking a soft blue light. None of the aliens noticed it. "You see, Hyunwoo continued as he reached the door. Humans have a saying, "The nail that sticks up gets hammered down." We learned that lesson very well. But we also learned something else. Sometimes the hammer breaks against the nail. The Vortani leader stood up and his skin turned bright red again. "You dare to threaten us? Your tiny fleet cannot stand against the combined might of the Alliance. We have ships from 12 different worlds and weapons. You cannot." Imagine Admiral Jimin stopped at the door and turned back to face the room. "That is exactly your problem," she said quietly. "You cannot imagine what we are capable of. You think in terms of fleets and weapons and normal space battles, but humans did not get to the top of their world food chain by fighting fair." She touched a small button on her wrist, and somewhere far away, other humans received a signal that would change everything. The aliens would learn soon enough that human desperation was not weakness. It was the most dangerous force in the galaxy. The humans walked out of the room and the big metal doors closed behind them with a soft hiss. The aliens sat in uncomfortable silence, not knowing that the small device under Admiral Jimin's chair was already sending information to human ships hidden throughout the galaxy. In 3 hours, the 48-hour deadline would begin. In 6 hours, the Vortani Alliance would discover that they had made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They thought they were negotiating with a weak species that had gotten lucky. They were actually talking to predators who had been pretending to be prey. The war that followed would teach the galaxy a lesson about underestimating humans. A lesson written in fire and quantum physics across the dark spaces between the stars. Captain Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of his ship looking out at the stars through the big window. The ship was called Indomitable, and it was one of the newest destroyers in the human fleet. But today, it might be flying its last mission. The bridge was quiet except for the soft sounds of computers and the breathing of his crew. "How long until the deadline, Lieutenant?" he asked without turning around. 37 hours, Captain Soo-jin replied from her station. Her young face was serious as she watched the numbers count down on her screen. "All systems are ready, sir. The package is secure and waiting for your command." The package was not a normal weapon. It was something the aliens had never seen before. Something that would change how everyone in the galaxy thought about humans. Captain Dong-hyun had read the technical reports 3 times, but still did not fully understand how it worked. He just knew it would either save humanity or destroy them completely. On the other side of the bridge, Engineer Woo Jin was checking the special equipment one more time. His hands moved carefully over the controls, making sure everything was perfect. There would be no second chances when the time came. Every human ship in the fleet had the same equipment, and they all had to work together perfectly. "Sir, we are getting reports from the other ships," said Communications Officer Hee-jin. "Everyone is ready and waiting. The captains all understand their orders." "Good," Dong-hyun said, but his voice was heavy. I had served in space for 15 years and had never been part of a plan like this. It was brilliant and terrifying at the same time. The kind of plan that only desperate people would try. Far away on Earth, Dr. Yoonji was working in her laboratory, deep underground. The room was filled with holographic displays showing complex equations and molecular structures. She had not slept for 2 days, and her eyes were red from staring at the screens, but she could not stop now. "The calculations have to be perfect," she told her assistant, Dr. Kyung-ho, who was checking the final numbers. "One mistake and the whole plan fails. Worse than that, it could tear holes in space that never close." Dr. Kyung-ho nodded as he ran the equations through the computer. For the 100th time, the quantum resonance has to be exactly right. If the frequency is off by even a tiny amount, the cascade effect will not work. Dr. Yoonji looked at the display showing the positions of human ships across the galaxy. Each ship had a device based on her research. Each device had to activate at exactly the same moment for the plan to work. The timing had to be perfect down to the microsecond. "How long did it take you to figure this out?" Dr. Kyung-ho asked. 5 years, she replied, but her voice was quiet. "I started working on it the day we first met the Vortani. I could see in their eyes that they would never accept us as equals. They were too afraid of what we might become." The laboratory door opened, and Admiral Ji-min walked. In her uniform was different now. Not the dress uniform she wore to negotiations, but the combat uniform she wore when preparing for battle. Her face was calm, but her eyes were hard status report. "Doctor," she said, "all ships are equipped and ready, Admiral. The quantum resonance devices will activate on your signal. The theoretical calculations show a 97% chance of success, and the other 3%." Dr. Yunji was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "The other 3%, we all die. But if we do nothing, we die anyway. At least this way we take our enemies with us." Admiral Jimin nodded. She had read the same reports. The Vortani Alliance had enough ships to turn every human world into burning rocks. They had weapons that could crack planets and the will to use them. Humanity had to do something unexpected or face extinction. In the outer colonies, families were saying goodbye to their homes. Evacuation ships were taking people to safer places. But there were not enough ships for everyone. Many people would have to stay and hope the plan worked. Children asked their parents why they had to leave, and the parents did not know how to explain. On the colony world of New Seoul, Captain Min-ho was loading the last civilians onto transport ships. His own family was among them, but he would not be going with them. He had volunteered to stay with the defense force to help with the plan, take care of them. He told his wife as she boarded the ship with their 2 children, "You better come back to us," she replied with tears in her eyes. "I will," he said. But they both knew he might be lying. There was no way to know who would survive what was coming. Back on the Indomitable, Captain Dong-hyun received a message from Fleet Command. All ships were in position. All captains had their orders. The countdown had begun. In 36 hours, the galaxy would change forever. Lieutenant Soo-jin looked up from her station. "Captain, we are receiving a message from the Vortani fleet. They are demanding our surrender again. Ignore it." Dong-hyun said, "Let them think we are beaten. Let them think we are running scared. They will learn the truth. Soon enough." Luna Base. Admiral Jimin stood in the command center surrounded by screens showing the positions of every human ship. The base was hidden on the dark side of Earth Moon where the aliens could not see it. From here she would coordinate the most desperate plan in human history. Commander Taeho approached her with a data pad. "Ma-am. All ships report ready. The evacuation is 70% complete. The quantum devices are online and synchronized. And our observers, still watching. Still thinking they know what we are planning. They expect us to either surrender or make a desperate attack with our remaining ships." Admiral Jimin smiled, but it was not a happy smile. "They have no idea what human warfare really looks like. When we fight for survival, we do not play by anyone else's rules." She walked to the main display showing the positions of the Vortani fleet. The aliens had gathered at the edge of human space, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They had ships from 12 different worlds and enough firepower to destroy Earth 10 times over. But they were thinking like aliens, not like humans. Humans had learned to fight dirty. They had learned to use their enemies' strength against them. They had learned that sometimes the only way to win was to change the rules of the game completely. In 6 hours, the Vortani would discover that they were not fighting a normal war. They were fighting against a species that had climbed to the top of their world's food chain by being more clever, more adaptable, and more ruthless than anything else that had ever lived. The quiet, before the storm was almost over. Fleet Commander Vextar stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching the human colonies through his sensors. The Vortani Alliance had gathered the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 3,000 ships from 12 different worlds floated in formation at the edge of human space. Each ship was ready for battle and eager to teach the humans a lesson about challenging their betters. "Look at them running like scared animals," Vextar said to his officers. His skin showed the satisfied, orange color that meant he was pleased. "The evacuation ships are fleeing from every human world. They know they cannot win against us." His second-in-command nodded. "The humans have only 200 ships left, sir. Our scouts report they are scattered across their territory with no clear battle formation. It will be easy to destroy them one by one." Vextar felt good about the situation. The humans had acted tough during the peace talks, but now they showed their true nature. weak creatures who ran. When faced with real power, soon the galaxy would be rid of this annoying species and the proper order would be restored. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," his communications officer reported, put it on the main screen. "Vextar," ordered Admiral Jimin appeared on the display. Her uniform was neat and her face showed no fear. She looked directly at Vextar as if they were equals instead of Predator and Prey Fleet Commander. "I am transmitting the coordinates of our remaining military assets. As you can see, we are vastly outnumbered." Vextar's skin turned more orange as he studied the data. The humans were being honest about their weakness. Their ships were spread thin across dozens of star systems with no hope of supporting each other. It would be like hunting fish in a small pond. "Finally, some wisdom from your species," he said, clicking his mandibles together in amusement. "Are you prepared to surrender and accept our terms?" "No," Admiral Jimin replied calmly. "We are prepared to show you why you should have taken our peace offers seriously." The transmission ended and Vextar felt confused. Why would the humans act defiant when they were clearly beaten? He turned to his sensor officer. "What are the human ships doing now?" Officer looked worried. "Sir, they are moving but not toward us. They are heading for empty regions of space, areas with no planets or strategic value. I do not understand their plan." Vextar watched the display as human ships began moving in all directions. Some went toward gas giants where no one lived. Others headed for asteroid fields that had no mining value. It made no sense as a military strategy. "Maybe they plan to hide and fight a long war," suggested his tactical officer. "No," Vextar said. "These positions offer no advantage. They are just empty space with nothing worth defending." That was when the first human ship exploded. The detonation was unlike anything Vextar had ever seen. Instead of the normal flash of light and debris, this explosion created strange energy readings that made all his sensors scream warnings. The space around the destroyed ship began to shimmer and twist like water. What was that, he demanded. Before anyone could answer, another human ship exploded. Then another. Then dozens more all across human space. The remaining ships were destroying themselves in what seemed like acts of madness. Each explosion created the same strange energy effects. "Sir," the science officer called out, his voice shaking with fear. "The explosions are creating cascade effects in subspace. The readings are off all our charts." Vextar watched in growing horror as space itself began to change. The areas where human ships had died were now showing massive energy distortions. The fabric of reality seemed to be tearing like cloth ripped by invisible claws. "Impossible," he whispered. The first rift opened near the gas giant where Captain Dong-hyun had destroyed his ship. Space split apart like a wound, revealing a swirling tunnel of energy that hurt to look at directly. The rift pulsed with power that made nearby asteroids crack and crumble. Then another rift opened, and another. Within minutes, dozens of holes in reality dotted human space. Each one was a doorway to somewhere else, but where? The answer came when the first ship emerged from a rift. It was unlike any human vessel the Vortani had seen before. This ship was sleek and organic looking, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid. Its hull was dark as space, but covered with patterns that glowed with soft light. The ship moved with grace that made it seem alive. Then more ships came pouring out of the rifts. Hundreds, then thousands. Each one different from the last, but all clearly of advanced design far beyond anything humanity had shown before. They spread out around each rift like guards protecting a gateway. "Impossible," Vextar said again. But his voice was barely a whisper. Admiral Jimin's voice echoed across all communication frequencies, reaching every ship in the Vortani fleet. "Did you really think we would reveal our full capabilities during peace negotiations? What you have seen of humanity was just the face we show to neighbors. You wanted to see what we become when cornered. You wanted to know what human desperation looks like. Look around you." The alien fleet hung motionless in space as their crews tried to understand what they were seeing. These ships had not come from human space. They had come from somewhere else entirely. Somewhere the Vortani did not know existed. Commander Vextar, his tactical officer, said quietly, "Our sensors cannot identify the weapons on these ships. The energy signatures are completely unknown. Some of them seem to be using technology that bends space itself. How many ships, Vex? Tar asked. The officer was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Over 10,000, sir, and more. Keep coming through the rifts, 10,000 ships that had appeared from nowhere. Ships with technology that made the Vortani fleet look like children, toys. Ships that moved and acted like they had been built for war against enemies the galaxy had never imagined. Where did they come from?" Vex Tar demanded, but no one had an answer. From the bridge of her command ship, Admiral Ji-min smiled as she watched the alien fleet try to process what was happening. She opened a channel to all frequencies and began to speak. "For 50 years, human ships have been exploring beyond the galactic rim," she said. "We told you we were expanding, but you thought we meant the worlds near Earth. You never asked where our deep space explorers had gone. You never wondered what we might have found in the dark spaces between galaxies. The truth was simpler and more terrifying than the aliens could imagine. Humans had not just been exploring. They had been preparing. They had found things in the void that had changed them, things that had taught them new ways to fight, new ways to survive. What you see now," she continued, "is what humans become when they have time to plan, when they have reason to prepare, and when they are pushed beyond the point of peaceful negotiation." The Vortani fleet began to retreat, but they found their path blocked by the strange human ships. The vessels that had seemed like harmless explorers just hours before were now revealed as something else entirely, something that had been waiting for this moment. The galaxy was about to learn that underestimating humanity was the last mistake many species would ever make. Dr. Yunji's voice crackled through space as she spoke to the frozen Vortani fleet from her laboratory deep under Earth. "I suppose you are wondering about the technology," she said with the calm tone of a teacher explaining something simple to confused students. "It is quite easy to understand, really. While you were busy forming alliances and building bigger fleets, we were solving the basic problem of space warfare. Distance. On every alien ship, screens lit up showing a holographic display of quantum mechanics. The equations looked impossible, but they were real and they were working right in front of their eyes. We call them quantum tunnels." Dr. Yunji continued, "Every human ship that just destroyed itself was carrying a quantum resonance device. When they all exploded at exactly the same moment, they created temporary holes in the fabric of space itself. Commander Yeon Woo's ship emerged from one of the larger rifts. His vessel hull showed the scars of battles fought in places the Vortani had never heard of, burn marks from weapons that used different physics, dents from impacts with things that should not exist. The ship moved like a predator that had learned to hunt in stranger and more dangerous places. The ships you see are not reinforcements from Earth." He announced, his voice carrying the confidence of someone who had faced the unknown and survived. "They are human vessels that have been exploring beyond the galactic rim for the past 50 years. We have been preparing for this day since we first met hostile alien life. The implications hit the Vortani like a physical blow. For 50 years, while they thought they knew everything about human capabilities, the humans had been sending ships into the void between galaxies. Ships that had found things out there. Things that had changed them." Captain Seo Hyun appeared on another communication channel. Her ship was one of the strangest-looking vessels in the fleet, with technology that seemed to bend light around it. "Learned things out there," she said quietly. "Things about how the universe really works. Things about what happens to species that try to control others through force." The alien crews watched in growing terror as more ships continued to emerge from the quantum rifts. Each vessel was different, showing that humanity had not just found one source of advanced technology. They had found many. The humans had become something new, something that combined technologies from across the universe. "Admiral," Ji-min's voice cut through the confusion like a blade. "You see, humans have a saying, if you want peace, prepare for war. We have been preparing for war since the day we met you. Every diplomatic mission, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange was also a reconnaissance mission. We know your weaknesses, your ship designs, your military strategies. We have been 3 steps ahead of you from the beginning." The truth was even worse than the aliens feared. Every time they had met with human diplomats, those meetings had been intelligence-gathering operations. The humans had been studying their potential enemies, learning everything they could about alien technology, culture, and psychology. Commander Vex-Tar tried to speak, but his voice came out as a whisper. This is impossible. No species develops such technology in secret. No one could hide preparations on this scale. Admiral. Ji-Min image appeared on his main screen, and she was smiling, but it was not a friendly expression. No other species has spent its entire evolutionary history being hunted by predators, while simultaneously becoming the apex predator. We are very good at preparing for threats, while appearing harmless. Captain Minho joined the communication from his position, commanding a squadron of ships that looked like they were made from liquid metal. The quantum tunnel technology is not our most advanced system, he said casually. It is just the one we are willing to show you right now. We have learned that revealing our full capabilities too quickly makes other species nervous. The Vortani commander's skin had turned completely white, the color of absolute terror around him. Representatives from the other 11 species were demanding answers, but their own fleets were paralyzed by the realization that they had been outmaneuvered from the very beginning. Dr. Yunji continued her explanation as if she were teaching a science class. When human explorers found the ruins of dead civilizations beyond the galactic rim, we learned an important lesson. Every species that tried to control the galaxy through force eventually faced something stronger than themselves. We decided to make sure that when humanity's time came, we would be the stronger force. The holographic displays now showed images that made the alien crew step back from their screens. Ancient structures floating in the void between galaxies. Technology that had been left behind by species so advanced, they had transcended physical existence. Ships that could manipulate reality itself. We did not just find technology, Captain Yan Wu added. We found teachers, the remnants of civilizations that had learned the hard way. What happens when you underestimate your enemies? They taught us patience, they taught us preparation, and they taught us that sometimes the only way to ensure peace is to make war too terrible for anyone to consider. Admiral Ji-Min raised her hand, and across human space the quantum rifts began to stabilize. The chaotic energy that had torn holes in reality became organized, forming permanent gateways that could be opened and closed at will. The question now is simple, she said. Do you want to find out what happens when a species that survived ice ages, plagues, and global wars decides to take the gloves off? Or would you prefer to reconsider those peace terms? The silence that followed was complete. Every alien in the Vortani fleet was trying to process what they had learned. Humanity was not a young species, stumbling into galactic politics. They were an ancient predator that had been pretending to be prey while they studied their enemies and prepared for war. Commander Vex-Tar finally found his voice, but it was weak and shaking. What do you want from us? Peace, Admiral Ji-Min replied simply. Real peace, not the kind where you dictate terms to us, but the kind where we work together as equals. We want to trade, to learn from each other, to explore the galaxy together. But we will not be conquered, and we will not be controlled. She paused and looked directly into the camera. The age of alien dominance over new species is over. From now on, when you meet a new civilization, you will remember this day. You will remember what happened when you tried to bully a species that had spent millions of years learning how to survive. The quantum rifts pulsed with energy, and through them came more ships. Each one a reminder that humanity had allies and resources the galaxy had never imagined. The message was clear: submit to negotiation, or face the consequences of a war against an enemy that had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. The Vortani Alliance had wanted to teach humanity a lesson about power. Instead, they were about to learn that lesson themselves. The Galactic Council chambers had never been so quiet. The same aliens who had given ultimatums just days before now sat like scared children waiting for punishment. The huge room felt smaller somehow, as if the walls were pressing in on everyone. Inside, Admiral Ji-Min stood at the center podium, where the Vortani leader had once demanded humanity's surrender. These are our conditions, she announced, and her voice carried the authority of someone who held all the power. The holographic displays around the room showed human ships positioned throughout the galaxy. their quantum tunnel technology allowing them to appear anywhere within hours. First, all human colonies will remain under human control. Second, the Vortani Alliance will withdraw from human space and establish a neutral zone of 50 light-years. Third, any future conflicts will be resolved through genuine negotiation, not threats. The former Vortani commander sat in what had once been the place of honor but was now more like a prisoner's dock. His skin flickered between white fear and gray shame. He had lost his entire fleet without firing a single shot, and his career was over. And if we refuse, he managed to ask. Captain Minho image appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from a position just outside the Vortani home system. His ship hung in space like a dark shadow against the stars behind him. Then you will discover what we found in the dark spaces between galaxies. The quantum tunnels do not just connect to places in our galaxy, you see. They connect to everywhere we have ever been. The implications were staggering. Humanity had been exploring beyond known space for 50 years, and no one knew what allies they might have found or what technologies they might have acquired. The species that had seemed like primitive newcomers had revealed themselves to be connected to forces beyond galactic understanding. A new voice joined the communication, Dr. Kyung-ho, speaking from a research station that appeared to be floating in the void between stars. There is something else you should understand. The quantum tunnel technology is not our most advanced system. It is just the one we are willing to show you right now. We have learned that revealing our full capabilities too quickly makes other species nervous. The Keth representative raised one of his forearms and spoke in his musical language, which was translated into standard galactic. How long have you been planning this deception? Ambassador Hyun Woo, who had been quiet during the formal presentation, now stepped forward. It was not deception, he said calmly. It was survival. When we first met galactic civilization, we realized that most species saw newcomers as either subjects to be controlled or threats to be eliminated. We chose to appear as the former while secretly preparing to be the latter. The truth was even more disturbing than the aliens had imagined. Every human action for the past 50 years had been part of a long-term strategy. Every treaty, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange had been designed to learn about potential enemies while hiding humanity's true capabilities. There is something you need to understand about humans, continued Ambassador Hyun Woo. We are a species that has never known true peace in our entire history. We have always been fighting something. Disease, famine, other humans, natural disasters, alien invasions. We have learned that the only way to survive is to be stronger than whatever wants to destroy us. Commander Taeho appeared on another screen from his position near one of the quantum rifts. We tried to be friends, he said, but his voice was hard with disappointment. We offered cooperation, sharing knowledge, peaceful coexistence, but you saw our hand extended in friendship and decided to try to cut it off. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They were beginning to understand that they had not just lost a military conflict. They had failed a test of whether galactic civilization was ready for true cooperation with humanity. Dr. Eun-ji's voice came through the speakers one final time. The universe is vast and full of dangers, she said. Some of those dangers are natural cosmic radiation, black holes, dying stars. But the worst dangers are always other thinking beings who believe that might makes right. You taught us that lesson. Well, Admiral Ji Min walked closer to the alien delegates. The vote will be unanimous, she said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. Not because you have suddenly developed respect for humanity, but because you have developed a healthy fear of what we might do if pushed further. The galaxy has learned a valuable lesson. Never assume you understand a species based on their public face. The voting began, and as predicted, every species voted to accept the human terms. The Keth voted yes, while whispering prayers to their ancestors. The Noxian voted yes while their branches rustled with nervous energy. The Grex voted yes while their liquid metal bodies shivered with barely controlled fear. One by one, each member of the former Vortani alliance accepted the new reality. Humanity would not be conquered, would not be controlled, and would not be underestimated. Again, the age of alien dominance over new species was over. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Admiral Ji Min remained behind, studying star charts on her data pad. The quantum tunnel network had opened up possibilities that even she was still trying to understand. Humanity could now reach any part of the galaxy, within hours and beyond the galaxy, to places where stranger things waited. Commander Tae-ho approached her quietly. "Ma, the quantum tunnel network is standing by. Orders maintain defensive positions," she replied, but her mind was already planning the next phase. Begin Phase 2 of the exploration program. If we are going to be galactic players, we need to know what is out there beyond the rim. The Vortani were right about one thing: humanity expansion does threaten the current galactic order. They just did not realize we were planning to replace it with something better. Outside the station, human ships began disappearing into quantum rifts, heading for destinations unknown to the rest of the galaxy. Some went to the ruins of ancient civilizations to learn more about the universe, deep secrets. Others went to patrol the dark spaces between galaxies, watching for threats that might one day come to challenge the new order. Captain Seo-hyun stood on the bridge of her ship as it emerged from a quantum tunnel near a distant nebula, where her sensors had detected something interesting. The readings suggested another dead civilization, another source of knowledge that could help humanity prepare for whatever came next. "The galaxy thinks this story is over," she said to her crew. But they were wrong. This was just the beginning. Humanity had revealed itself as a galactic power, but they had also revealed that the universe was much larger and more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Far away on Earth, children played in parks under a sun that no longer seemed threatened. Parents went to work knowing their colonies were safe. Politicians planned for a future that stretched across galaxies instead of just solar systems. The age of human expansion had begun, and this time they would not be asking permission. They had learned the galaxy lesson about power, and now they would teach their own lesson about what happened to those who confused cooperation with weakness. In the depths of space, quantum rifts pulsed with energy, carrying human ships to places where new adventures waited. The galaxy had wanted to know what humans were capable of. Now they would spend the rest of their existence finding out.